A spiritual awakening is a profound shift in consciousness, a moment when the veil of ordinary perception lifts and we begin to see the world not just as it is, but as it could be. It is a deep, internal revelation, an understanding that flows not from books or doctrines but from the very core of our being. This awakening often connects us to ancient truths and forgotten ways of living, revealing a history that has been deliberately buried and silenced. We start to question the structures of our society, the stories we have been told, and the power dynamics that shape our lives. It is a journey back to a more authentic self and a more harmonious way of relating to each other and to the earth itself, a remembrance of a time before our current systems of domination. This inner journey often leads us to uncover the whispers of lost matriarchal societies, cultures that were organized around partnership, creativity, and a deep reverence for life. These were not societies where women dominated men, but rather cultures where feminine principles of care, collaboration, and nurturing were at the center of social and spiritual life. Evidence from Old Europe and other ancient sites reveals civilizations that thrived for millennia without fortifications or signs of systemic warfare. They were societies that honored the goddess, the great creatrix, and saw divinity in the cycles of nature, birth, death, and rebirth. This connection to the earth was not merely philosophical. It was practical, technological, and deeply intertwined with the very energies of the planet. The link between these ancient matriarchal cultures and the concept of free, sustainable energy is one of the most compelling revelations of this awakening. They understood that the earth itself is a source of immense power, a living being that provides endless, clean energy if we only learn how to listen and align with its natural flows. Their architecture, their rituals, and their daily practices were all designed to harmonize with these terrestrial currents. They did not seek to conquer or extract from nature, but to co-create with it. This understanding represents a stark contrast to our modern industrial paradigm, which is built on extraction, consumption, and the inevitable depletion of resources, leading to ecological and social imbalance. These societies saw energy not as a commodity to be bought and sold, but as a sacred gift, an animating life force that permeates all things. Their villages were built on specific locations, often on powerful energy ley lines, to tap into this natural vitality. The very construction of their homes and temples was a form of energy technology, designed to gather, amplify, and distribute this life-enhancing power for the well-being of the entire community. This knowledge was a cornerstone of their peaceful and prosperous existence, a testament to a different kind of science, one that is holistic, intuitive, and deeply integrated with the spiritual fabric of the cosmos, a model of true sustainability we desperately need to rediscover today. At the heart of these ancient matriarchal technologies was a profound understanding of magnetism. Women, in their innate connection to the cycles of the moon and the earth, were the keepers of this sacred knowledge. They knew that certain stones, particularly lodestones and other magnetic rocks, were not just inert objects but powerful conduits of the Earth's life force. These were not mere tools, they were sacred allies. Women in these ancient times would wear magnetic stones as jewelry or place them within their homes and sacred spaces. This practice was a way of attuning their own bodies to the planet's magnetic field, enhancing their intuition, promoting healing, and fostering a deep sense of connection to the web of life. The symbolism of the magnet is deeply feminine. It represents the power of attraction, of drawing in, of nurturing, and of holding together, the very principles that define a partnership-oriented society. A magnet does not conquer, it invites. It does not force, it aligns. This is the power of the chalice, the receptive, life-giving vessel that was a central symbol in goddess-worshipping cultures. Women understood this magnetic force as the physical manifestation of the goddess's love, an energy that binds communities together in mutual care and respect. By using these magnetic stones, they were actively participating in this divine, cohesive energy, creating a resonant field that supported harmony and cooperation within their villages. This knowledge was passed down through generations, from mother to daughter, as an essential part of a woman's spiritual and practical education. They knew which stones to gather, how to orient them, and how to combine them to create fields of positive, life-sustaining energy. Their homes, often built in circular patterns without sharp corners, were designed as gentle energy accumulators, with magnetic stones strategically placed in the foundations and walls. These were not just houses, they were living sanctuaries that pulsed with the gentle, healing rhythm of the earth. Living within such an environment nurtured physical health, emotional well-being, and a heightened spiritual awareness, creating a society that was fundamentally peaceful and vibrant. The use of these stones was a stark contrast to the development of sharp, metallic weapons that would come to characterize the patriarchal cultures that followed. While the blade represents separation, aggression, and domination, the power to kill, the magnetic stone represents connection, healing, and cohesion, the power to give and enhance life. The women of these societies were not just builders and healers, they were energetic engineers, consciously shaping their environment to reflect the values of life and love. Their magnetic technology was the bedrock of a world where power was understood not as power over others, but as the power to create and sustain life together in partnership. The peaceful, magnetic, and egalitarian world of these matriarchal societies was not lost by accident. It was systematically destroyed. This destruction was carried out by patriarchal invaders, often nomadic tribes whose worldview was fundamentally different. As chronicled in texts like the Bible and other religious scriptures, these groups worshipped a distant male sky god and saw the earth and the feminine as something to be conquered and controlled. Theirs was a culture of the blade, not the chalice, built on hierarchy, domination, and warfare. They viewed the self-sufficient, goddess-worshipping villages as a profound threat to their emergent power structure and their ideology of male supremacy. These patriarchal men launched what can only be described as holy wars against the matriarchal way of life. They swept down from the arid deserts and grasslands, bringing with them a previously unknown level of organized violence. Their primary targets were the centers of feminine power and knowledge, the villages, the sacred groves, and the stone temples. The destruction was not just physical, but deeply symbolic. They sought to eradicate the very memory of a world where women held spiritual authority and where society was organized around partnership. They toppled the sacred standing stones, desecrated the shrines, and brutally suppressed the worship of the goddess in all her forms. A crucial element of this campaign of destruction was the war on magnetic construction. The invaders were mystified and threatened by the power of the stone-built, mortar-free structures. They could not comprehend a technology based on harmony and resonance, so they outlawed it. They decreed that all buildings must be constructed with mortar, a substance that effectively insulates a structure from the Earth's natural magnetic field. This architectural mandate was a direct assault on the matriarchal connection to terrestrial energy. By forcing the use of mortar, they severed the energetic link between people and the planet, trapping inhabitants in magnetically dead spaces that fostered disconnection, anxiety, and ill health. The goddess Asherah, often represented by a sacred pole or a living tree, was a primary target of this patriarchal fury. She symbolized the life-giving, regenerative power of nature and was a central figure in the spiritual life of these societies. Biblical texts are filled with commands from the patriarchal god to cut down her groves and smash her sacred pillars. The destruction of Asherah's shrines was the destruction of women's sacred spaces, the places where they gathered, healed, and shared their ancestral wisdom. This act was a deliberate effort to erase the visible presence of the divine feminine from the landscape and from human consciousness, replacing her with a rigid, authoritarian, and exclusively male deity. The consequences of this ancient war are still profoundly felt in our lives today. We live in homes and work in offices that are, by and large, magnetically inert. Our modern buildings, with their steel frames, concrete foundations, and ubiquitous mortar, are designed to shield us from the very terrestrial energies that our ancestors knew were essential for health and well-being. This physical disconnection contributes to the spiritual and emotional malaise of our time, the pervasive sense of alienation, anxiety, and separation from nature. We have been living in energetic cages of our own making, unaware that the blueprints for our prisons were drawn up millennia ago in a violent effort to suppress feminine power. However, the spirit of matriarchal wisdom was never entirely extinguished. Throughout the long centuries of patriarchal rule, women have consistently fought back, preserving fragments of the ancient knowledge in secret. They became the keepers of herbal lore, the midwives, the witches who were persecuted for holding on to a worldview that honored the earth and the body. They passed down stories and practices in whispers, embedding them in folklore, crafts, and healing traditions. This quiet, persistent resistance is a war for freedom, not a war of violence and domination, but a struggle to reclaim our right to live in harmony with the earth and with each other, to reconnect with our own bodies and our innate intuitive wisdom. Today, as we stand on the precipice of ecological and social collapse, the need to reclaim this lost heritage has never been more urgent. The spiritual awakening that many are now experiencing is a call to action, an invitation to consciously dismantle the patriarchal structures that have led us to this crisis. It is a call to remember and rebuild. We must advocate for and actively participate in the creation of new magnetic communities, places built on the principles of partnership, sustainability, and reverence for the divine feminine. This is not about returning to a romanticized past, but about integrating ancient wisdom with modern understanding to forge a viable future. Let us be the generation that answers this call. We can begin by re-educating ourselves about sacred geometry, natural building, and the energetic properties of the earth. We can support architects, builders, and community planners who are pioneering new forms of magnetic, life-enhancing construction. Let us champion the creation of spaces that heal rather than isolate, that connect rather than divide. By choosing to build new magnetic societies rooted in the partnership values of the ancient matriarchies, we are not just building homes, we are rebuilding our world. We are fighting for a future where both the chalice and the blade can be transformed into tools for creating a balanced, peaceful, and thriving world for all.